Today we're going to be listening to the brand new album, Exit Wounds, by the Wallflowers. Hello everybody and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on my channel. If you've never seen any of my reactions before, just know how this is basically going to work is I'm going to take the CD, I'm going to put it in my CD player, and I'm going to listen all the way through from front to back for the very first time and give you my thoughts and my reactions in real time. I have never heard this album before. I have just got my copy in the mail about a week ago, and I've been waiting for the right time to do this. It's unopened, and I'm really, really excited to listen to this album with you guys today. A couple things I have to mention beforehand. The first thing is I generally talk a little bit about the band at the beginning of the video, and then after I'm done listening to the album all the way through, I'll do a little bit of a sort of an overview or a review of the album as a whole. So, along with that and each of the different tracks, I have included timestamps in the description of this video below, so you can go through and skip to the different sections of the video that you would like to see. If you want to listen along to the entire album with me, you can do that, and I will include a link to Spotify to listen along with me. But if you just want to hear a specific song, if you have a favorite song on the album and you want to hear my thoughts as I'm hearing it for the first time, you can skip to that. You can also just skip to the beginning of the album if you want to just listen to the album and skip the whole rigmarole at the beginning. Or if you just want to go to the very end of the video and hear my sort of overall thoughts, you can do that as well. Another thing I want to mention is that I will not be including any actual audio from the CD in this video. I don't want to get a copyright strike, and I don't want to take anything away from the Wallflowers themselves. So just be aware of that. Another thing to mention is that, and sometimes this is a factor in my videos and sometimes it's not, but I think in this particular case it might be, I do not generally tend to listen or focus on lyrics, so I just want to get that out of the way right away. I'm more of a production person. I like to listen to the arrangements of the songs. What sounds are you hearing? How did they come up with those sounds in the studio? How did they choose what particular sounds to use, and how they all kind of work together to create what I hope is very good production and a very good mix that serves the song as well as the album as a whole. So that's probably what I'm going to be talking about a lot, is sort of like song structuring, which is really important to me. I hate it when songs fade out, so I hope none of the songs on this album do that. Now I'm just like terrified that this song's going to fade out. No! And then also things like the production, how everything sounds. Like I said, that's kind of the kind of thing that I talk about. If a lyric does strike me or something really stands out to me, I will talk about it. But for the most part, not a ton of lyrical breakdown, so don't be expecting that. So I mentioned before that I'm really excited about this, and I really truly am. For me, I really have enjoyed the Wallflowers work, and specifically Jakob Dylan's work throughout his career. I first found Jakob Dylan through his second solo album, Women in Country, which is actually one of my all-time favorite albums. I think this album is incredible from front to back. One of the main reasons I think that, and this goes back to the production stuff like I was saying, T-Bone Burnett produced this album, and this was at the T-Bone at the height of his powers. Everything about it is so T-Bone produced. The bass is very there's no high end in the bass whatsoever. It's almost just sort of like a droning, almost like an electronic note from a keyboard or something, but most of it played on upright bass. The drums are there's almost no cymbals, very sparse drums. And if the drums are there, they're not very happy sounding. They're very, again, the whole mix really sounds very like it's lacking in high frequencies, but not to the detriment of the mix. It sounds like something that would be playing on an old time radio or something, or a big, cabinet stereo or something like that. And that is like what T-Bone does the best, sort of sparse arrangements with really good songwriters and people that he was comfortable working with on many, many projects. And he had actually worked with the Wallflowers on their huge breakout hit album. What's this album called again? Bringing Down the Horse. This is the Wallflowers' huge album that they exploded with their big song. What was it called? Oh no, the titles are, One Headlight, of course. How could I forget that? One Headlight being a very, very big and influential song for them in their career, and this album got really big. However, this album came out in 1996, yeah. So this was sort of when T-Bone was starting to find his own sound, but not quite there in terms of his own sort of unique and signature sound yet. However, that's the album that most people, I think, know the Wallflowers from. One Headlight is a huge song that's still played on the radio to this day, and very, very influential. I guess I should also mention my thoughts are a little jumbled here, but I am not a big fan of Bob Dylan whatsoever. Like, there's only maybe one or two Bob Dylan songs that I've really ever enjoyed, and those were in movies, so they had sort of like a visual context as well to me. Like, for example, The Times They Are Changing, I think, is a Bob Dylan song at the beginning of Watchmen. Amazing segment in a movie, but the song itself, not a very big fan of Bob Dylan's voice. So just to get that out of the way. Jakob Dylan, though, I love his voice. Much more of a lower, deep register baritone type of voice. Maybe not baritone. Yeah, baritone, certainly not bass, but anyway, I love his songwriting. I love his singing. I love the way that he allows songs to have time to build, and that carries over into the Wallflowers as well. So along with these two albums, I also have what I think is the entire Wallflowers catalog. This is their first album, their self-titled album from 1992. This album I don't care for really at all. The production on it isn't very good. It's not terrible, but I have said before in other videos that the 90s is my least favorite decade of music for lots of reasons, but anyway, I'll probably get into that a little bit more. Then we also have their third album, Breach. I can never remember if it's Breach or Beach. This album is pretty good. I enjoy it more than their first two albums. The T-Bone, I should mention, I guess. Sorry that my thoughts are so jumbled here. Bringing Down the Horse, I enjoy this album, but the production on it isn't the best. I think that it's a little thin at times, and the songwriting gets a little bit repetitive to me. And the same can kind of be said for a couple of their other albums. Their album Red Letter Days is my second favorite album of theirs, and I think this is probably a lot of people who are like hardcore Wallflowers fans. I've never heard anybody really talk too great about this album. I love it because it's got a little bit more sort of like poppy elements to it. There's some cool programmed drums. There's some cool synth pads and things like that that help to add atmosphere. And if you're watching a video for the first time on my channel, I say it all the time, and I'm sure I will talk about it regarding this album too. My favorite aspect of music are the things that that a band puts into an album, into a song in the studio that really isn't performed live. It has nothing to do with the performing live part, but to me, almost every song has drums, bass, guitar, vocal in it. And you can do a lot of really cool special things with those four particular instruments. However, to me, what makes albums special, what gives an album its sort of atmospheric feel, its own tonal quality, are the things that are added other than just guitar, bass, drums, vocals. And that can be things so simple as like just auxiliary percussion stuff like shakers and tambourines, congos, bongos, extra cymbals, things like that. That can go a long way to adding to a song. And then also something as simple as just overdubs, vocal harmonies, background vocals of any kind, screaming vocals or shouting vocals in like metal, things like that, really help albums stand out from other albums, songs stand out from other songs on an individual album. So I really feel like Red Letter Days in the Wallflowers category does a good job of separating each song. And then another album that they have that is my favorite of theirs is Rebel Sweetheart, I believe it's called. The Rebel Sweetheart? No, Rebel Sweetheart. This is my favorite album of theirs, and there are aspects of it that I enjoy and aspects of it that I don't. I think, and this is actually pretty shocking to say, I think the album could have actually been compressed a little bit more. It's a very dynamic album, which is really good, and it's really good for listening on headphones. The sonic quality is amazing on this album, but I think that it could have actually been tightened up a little bit more, and the songs would be maybe slightly less dynamic, but have a little bit more of an overall through line, I guess, be a little bit more consistent throughout the whole album. I have the special, the dual disc version of this, which has a CD on one side and a DVD on the other side. And this is actually the first Wallflowers album that I purchased. And I think I bought it used at the record store that I used to work at. But this being my sort of introduction to the Wallflowers after I had got the Jakob Dylan solo album. That's the first album of all these albums that I've got. And I love that album to death, like I already said. It's actually, I was considering it to be in my top 12 albums of this previous decade from 2010 to 2020. But you can watch the other videos on my channel for how I chose that list. It ended up not making it on that list by just a tiny little bit. But when I bought this album, it was a lot more of a cleaner sound. Everything was much more clean and clear and crisp, and the way that it would appear in the air. It didn't have a lot of sort of effects, or the recording techniques used to record the album didn't have so much of its own signature texture to it, like the Women in Country Jakob Dylan solo album did. And it threw me off at first because it sounded a lot more sort of generic to me in that regard. But when I started paying more attention to the arrangements of the songs and everything, I realized that it was really truly a special album. And then watching the DVD on how they sort of recorded it, and then more specifically, how they recorded some live versions of the songs just in the studio that they performed just for the DVD. That was really interesting as well, because they did One Headlight, which is a song that I had heard before, Second Avenue Heartache, I believe it is, off of Fifth Avenue Heartache, I think. And then this album came out, I was trying to find the date here, 2005. And then significantly later than that, in 2012, is when we have the second most recent Wallflowers album. And this is Glad All Over. And this album, which I got, again, it's funny, the same year that the most recent Matchbox 20 album came out, North. Both of those albums came out in the same year and relatively close together. And I think I bought both of them at the same time at the Best Buy that was near my house where I was living at the time in Omaha, Nebraska. And I remember bringing them home and the Matchbox 20 album just blowing me away. There's a lot of electronic stuff on that album. There's a lot of different poppy elements, but it still retains that core of a group of guys sitting down, writing songs together on their instruments, and then still having it feel like a band could perform the songs. Then I remember listening to this album and thinking every song sounded very sonically similar, and not really being able to get very far into the album before I just kind of got a little bored and disappointed, and then would move on to something else. Now, with that said, I have not listened to this album for quite a while, and the other day, because I knew I was going to be doing this video, I sat down and I put it in while I was just sort of cleaning around the house, and I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I remembered. So I don't know if that means that I have just sort of matured as a music fan and have learned to enjoy this a little bit more than I did at the time when it came out, or if I was just dumb at the time and not paying attention to it, or unfairly comparing it to other albums that had come out around the time. However, I don't know if I've ever actually listened to this album all the way through. So I remember being disappointed in it, though. And also, this album was famous at the time. There was a bunch of big deal because the guy from The Cars, the vocalist Mick Jones, I believe, from The Cars, sang on 2 songs on here. And I remember hearing the songs and being just kind of like, really? Like, these are weird singles, and I didn't really feel it. So that's sort of my overall thoughts on the Wallflowers. I do also have here Jakob Dylan's first solo album, which to me is very, very mediocre compared to his second solo album. And in preparing for this video, I just found out that Jakob Dylan had released an album of all duet covers of songs from like the 60s and the 70s, I believe, for a project he was working on called Echo in the Canyon. I didn't know that existed until about an hour ago when I was starting to get ready for this video. So that's something that I'm really excited to look forward to now. And if you're watching this video and you don't know what I'm talking about, just go look up Echo in the Canyon and watch the trailer for it on YouTube. They made a really cool movie documentary about it. I believe there's a performance as well that goes with it, and then a really good recorded studio album as well. So check that out. So the reason I bring all that stuff up is because I'm a little trepidatious to get into this album. Because on one hand, what I think it's going to be, what I hope it's going to be, is amazing. I hope that all the songs have a little bit of a different, unique flavor to it. I hope that a lot of the songs have a bit of a dark feeling to them, which Jakob Dylan can do sometimes on his songs. And the Wallflowers occasionally have. I think that they're a little bit more happy overall than Jakob Dylan's solo work. But I think this album has the potential to be really good. I read a little bit about it online saying that it was all written, and I think it may have even been recorded before the coronavirus pandemic hit last year. And he decided he just didn't want to release an album during that time because the Wallflowers want to be able, keep saying he, but the Wallflowers are a band, and I know that everyone in the band is integral to the Wallflowers, not just Jakob Dylan, though I know that he's sort of the superstar of the group. But they wanted to be able to tour with it, and they wanted to be able to put it out and have people be able to consume it, in groups or whatever, however they wanted to do it. So they decided to wait until everything sort of quieted down, and now we have the album out. So I love the artwork on this, first of all. I know that really doesn't matter to a lot of people, but to me, I really enjoy the physical media aspect of everything. The artwork does feel like this album could have more of a feeling that is closer to Jakob Dylan's solo album, Women in Country, like I said, rather than the more sort of overly clear and polished feeling that I get from the Wallflowers, basically their other albums. And so I'm really hoping that this album has a tonal quality to it that's consistent, that gives the whole thing a sort of an atmospheric feel. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to sound very earthy and very organic and acoustic, which is why I was mentioning earlier my thoughts on the fact that I usually gravitate towards the aspects of a song or of an album that were put in the studio that are the sort of special sprinkles, as I call them. That's usually, I love the way the album looks. It's a Columbia record, I believe, on Columbia. No, on New West Records. That's interesting. But it does sort of keep in following with the theme of the way Jakob Dylan's discs look and the Wallflowers discs look overall. The sort of with almost like a vinyl label on a vinyl. I really, really, really enjoy that. But anyway, like I was saying, there's a chance that this album could kind of bore me a little bit, and I don't want that to be the case, but I know that it's a possibility because of just how the Wallflowers operate as a group. It should be noted here as well that in the artwork, the only picture I'm seeing inside the artwork is just a single picture of Jakob Dylan himself. Now let's see here. We have the lyrics in here, which I'm not going to read along as I go. If I have questions, I can. Does it say? I'm just looking for the sort of, album was recorded or whatnot, but I don't see that in here at all. Oh, it's in here. So Jakob Dylan, vocals and guitar, Butch Walker, some guitar, keyboards, percussion, backing vocals. I like to see backing vocals. I've already mentioned I think that's a really important aspect to the album. I hope it is. Mark Stepro, the drums. Why Not Jensfeld, bass. Aaron Embry, keyboards. Val McCullum, guitar. Shelby Lynn, vocals on tracks 1 and then 5 through 7. That's good. I love female backing vocals. And then Brian Griffin, drums on track 6. So that's interesting. I don't know if that is any of the people who performed on their last several albums. On their previous album, which is Glad All Over from 2012, which is 9 years ago, Jakob Dylan vocals, Rami, Jeffy, Greg Richling. No. Stuart Mathis, Jack Irons. Nope. Jay Joyce. Nope. So it looks like this is an entire new version of the Wallflowers. I could go back and see off of their album that I really enjoy, Rebel Sweetheart, if any of these people were in the band at the time. Fred, Rami, Greg Richling. No. Okay, so it looks like, unless it's going way back to the earlier part of their career, this is an entire new group of people. Let me check Jakob Dylan's solo album. Just see if anybody that he worked on that album. Dennis, Mark Ribbett, T-Bone Burnett, Ira Nippes, Marcus, Maurice Spears, George. Yeah, so it looks like this is a whole new group of people. So I'm really hoping that they all mesh well together. Obviously they will, or he wouldn't have had them on the album. But I'm hoping that we get a nice, atmospheric, consistent feeling from this album. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and listen to this album and see what we think. Before we even start, I just want to thank everybody for being here, and if you have any other albums you would like me to check out with this format, let me know in the comments, and also let me know what you think of this format. I've tried different things in the past, and this is the one that kind of works the best for me. But let's just get into it. All right, I'm hitting play right now. Oh, hold on. My headphones are not. Hold on a sec. I have issues with my headphones sometimes. I need to get new ones, but who's got the money for that? Track one starting right now. Maybe your heart is not in it no more. So we have two acoustic guitars, one on the right side, one on the left. Oh, I love the drums. That snare is awesome. So on the left, we have what sounds like an acoustic guitar, but could also be a keyboard part, playing just sort of an arpeggiated broken chord. The right, we have the strummed acoustic guitar that has been going since the beginning. But there's also a guitar panned slightly left that is doing sort of like occasional strums and picking parts to kind of balance everything. Bass sounds like an electric bass right in the middle. The kick sounds very nice and well-rounded, but lots of sub-frequencies in there. Really feel it punches you when it hits. And that snare sounds very interesting. You can really hear the snares. I'm going to assume that both the kick and the snare were replaced or at least have additional sounds that were added. Jacob's vocals right in the middle. Clean, but they have also... Ooh, nice slide guitar on the left a little bit. We also have some nice organ in the back. I think I hear a piano too. One other interesting thing that I'm excited to pay attention to is the song structuring. I may have the book out to just sort of take a look. We got background, the female vocals now. This song has a very nice groove to it. That was an interesting, I assume that's sort of more of a chorusy part. But that was what I was saying about the structuring of Wallflowers and Jakob Dylan's songs. He writes songs kind of like his father in that there's many, many verses and not necessarily always a defined chorus. Usually there is, but the chorus might not necessarily be this much bigger, huge, different sounding thing. It could just be another sort of a verse that's repeated or half of a part of a verse that's repeated. So I'm anxious to see... Oh, I was looking at this typeset here, this font, and I could not figure out what it says. But if you look at it closely, I thought it was like up like this. but it's Exit Wounds. Brilliant. Brilliant. One thing I will say, right now they're doing the sort of Willie Nelson treatment for background vocals, as I say, having Jacob do the lead line at his own pace and tempo, and then the background vocalist is also doing the same line at her own rhythm. And so they're not necessarily lining up perfectly, and I'm not a big fan of that, but it can be done well. I love the sonic quality of everything that we're hearing. That acoustic guitar on the right has been strumming in there the entire time. I think a strummed acoustic guitar is the most overrated sound in all of music. I'm pretty sure I'm hearing some nice piano in there, very tasty playing. And that's what I would expect from a band playing songs like a band would. Please don't fade out. That is not a good start to this album. I absolutely cannot stand when songs fade out. I think it is the laziest choice you can make as a musician, as a producer. I do not think that it makes it sound like your song continues off into the distance and plays forever. Please don't do that on any more songs on this album. Okay, this is Roots and Wings, and I love what I'm hearing so far. This has a nice throwback feel to it. Oh, yeah. I feel like there's a little bit less of the sort of like snare sound, the snares sound in the snare. Less of that sort of white noisy ksh. A bit more of a tighter sounding snare. Oh. Nice electric guitar there on the left. Again, the acoustic guitar just strumming along on the right side. I imagine it will probably be there the entire album. Nice piano going. Oh, love it. I love it. That electric guitar part with like the flange sort of chorusy effect on it. Very cool. Nice. I like the background vocals. Sometimes when a band is trying to have a much more of a live feel, they won't include as many background vocals or layers of overdubs or anything like that. But as I've been saying, sort of those sort of things can help separate the different sections of a song to let you know where you're going and that you're in the chorus or whatever part of the song you happen to be in. And I think that those are some of the most important elements to music. Man, I love that typeface so much. The Echo in the Canyons project that I mentioned earlier that I wasn't even aware of is all about, like I said, doing cover songs from like the 60s, like the Byrds and the Mamas and the Papas and things like that. And I was wondering if I was going to hear any sort of influences from that in this. And I think that I am. It's not necessarily something I can put my finger on, but I think I am hearing some influences. The way that kick pattern started at the beginning, and especially that flangey guitar. Nice build here. This is reminding me of something. That boom, boom, boom. And then, of course, that flangey guitar, which I love. I love it. This song has... The first song had like a groove to it. This song has a bounce. A nice bounce to it. Now I'm just like terrified that this song's gonna fade out. No! It absolutely ruins a song for me. And I know that that's stupid. And if you're watching this and you love the Wallflowers, you're like, you stupid idiot. It doesn't matter that the songs fade out. It matters to me. I hate it. It is the biggest pet peeve of mine in any area or walk of life. I cannot stand it when an artist fades a song out. It is so ridiculous. And it's why I can't listen to a lot of music from the 60s and the 70s where every single song fades out. America, great example. Their album with Ventura Highway and the Sandman song, whatever it is, and Horse with No Name, all amazing songs. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That album has, I think, 12 songs on it. 11 of the 12 fade out. I can understand, I suppose, if you have like a 6-minute long song and you're just like soloing and doing stuff at the end, but to just do verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, and then you fade out, nope, don't do that. And there's only 10 songs on this album. So now only 80% of it will, if I really hope that the rest of these songs do not fade out. So this is track 3. I hear the ocean when I want to hear trains. I hear a castanets off to the left, I believe. Or not castanet, what's the I forget what that's called. A clavichord? No. Anyway, I love it. The washboard sound. We also have shaker. And there's like a sort of like a tapping on a tambourine on the right. Oh, that one might have been the hi-hat. Now, this song does not have the acoustic guitar strummed on the right side like it was. I'm assuming there's a little bit of an electric guitar there. So I'm thinking that that's Jacob playing, doing some tasty little licks. I still hear acoustic strum guitar, but it's much less present, less high frequencies, and it's off to the left a little bit. The bass is very nice and round. Not a ton of high frequency in it at all, but it doesn't need to have that. It is an interesting lyric. I hear the ocean when I want to hear trains. Oh, love the guitar solo here. I'm a very, very, very big fan of Duane Eddy. And this sounds like a guitar solo Duane Eddy would have played. All the fast stops and little staccato notes. Very cool. This one also has a bit of a swing beat to it, but a bit more of a bounce to it. The tonal quality of this is reminding me a little bit of the Black Keys' most recent album, I Wanna Rock. Or Let's Rock, sorry, Let's Rock. Oh, actually, that's not the most recent Black Keys album. The most recent Black Keys album is, what was it called? The one with Crawling Kingsnake. I just did a reaction to it on my channel. Embarrassing that I can't think of that. Trying to focus on this though. Okay, that song ended. Thank goodness. Nice piano ringing out. Do it for the rest of the album for me, Jacob. Please do. Okay, now we have The Dive Bar in My Heart. Okay, we're back to that sort of flangey, chorusy affected guitar. Love it. Oh, love the low piano notes. Strummed acoustic guitar. Love that. Just one kick. One kick. And there's a few more in there now that this drums beat's getting to going, but that's nice. I really love the way this sounds. A lot. This is definitely the best sounding album I think that Jakob Dylan has made with the Wallflowers or by himself, other than his solo album with T-Bone, which sounds, I would say, equally as good as this in a different way. But this album really sounds nice and tight. Jakob Dylan really has a very, I don't want to say raspy, but he has a very airy sounding voice. He uses a lot of air when he sings. And a lot of the time at the end of his phrases, he goes, ugh. He says a phrase and he's using all of his air. So he has to go through and use this little sort of sound. And it's all his own sort of different little technique and his own style. And I don't think it's bad at all. Just something I'm noticing. Nice little build here. The shakers and Oggs percussion on this song has really, really been nice. And the previous song as well. Love it. Love the guitar solos. Really love the guitar solos on the album. That's a really neat tone. Nice. This song seems to have a much more straightforward beat. There's not as much of a bounce to it. Going back to almost being a little groovy. The background vocals on this song sound a little bit more roomy, like they were recorded a little further away, which is nice, especially because they're talking about a dive bar. Thank you. Thank you for not. Ooh, I'm so scared. My heart is beating fast every time we're getting towards what feels like the ending of a song. Darlin', hold on. Yes. Oh, give me that space. Give me that cymbal ringing. Give me the snares turned off with like maybe a brush. Yes. Like a harder brush. This might not be necessarily a brush so much as a it's like a drumstick made out of reeds, or a little like dowels almost. I don't know what it's technically called. Love it. A lot of my other favorite Wallflowers songs from all their albums are the sort of more ballady, simple ones. Simple arrangement-wise, not necessarily simple meaning-wise or anything like that. Female backing vocals here. Piano, really nice. Then we have strummed electric guitar on the left, and then the actual electric guitar part in the right, which is where this whole time I've been listening, I've been sort of equating with... Oh, love it. Yes. This must be Shelby Lynn. Love it. Oh, this is awesome. Nice little bass lick there. Tasty. That's the kind of thing I would expect from the Wallflowers. Tasty playing, whether it's piano, guitar, drums, bass, all elements. I expect it to feel like everyone feeling their way around their own individual parts and not getting in each other's way. And I know Butch Walker is an incredibly famous and well-renowned producer. And I need to do a little bit more research, I guess, into things that he's done, because I think this sounds fantastic. Nice little slide guitar in there, keeping the sort of country sort of feeling to it a little bit. I've never thought of the Wallflowers as a country band, but that slide guitar really helps emphasize that bit of a country feeling that they sort of flirt with a little bit on the fringes of. But Jakob Dylan does not sing. He does not glide into his notes, which is very common for country music. See, now here in this song, unlike the first track, the woman, whose name I guess I forgot already, Shelby Lynn. They're still singing. They're still performing the song. I don't think, no matter how good the rest of this album is, 3 songs that fade out of 10, that is a very poor percentage. And that song, they were still singing. Why fade the song down? Continue playing and end the song, please! I ain't gonna go see you live. So I don't want to sit there. I'm not gonna wait to see you live to hear how you want to end the song. Please end the songs. It pisses me off so much because I love what I'm hearing. And I get it. I know you watching this video, you don't give a crap that the song fades out, but I do. I care about this so much. I want to love this so much, and I do. I love everything that I'm hearing, except they have to insist on being lazy and fading the songs out. More female backing vocals here. Bit of a twangy guitar on the left. Love the ooze. Yeah. Bit more of an up-tempo one. The tambourine going fast. Helps give the song a feeling of moving forward. Keeping up the energy here for the second verse. I'm just terrified that the rest of these songs are going to fade out, especially with the egregious nature that previous one did. Love those piano chords. Love it. I love the little echo vocal part there. Very cool. It's really disappointing to me because this album, there's no way that it could make it onto my top 12 albums of the decade of the year this year, which is what I do at the end of every year. At the beginning of every year, I do a top 12 albums of the previous year. I've been doing it for 10 years now. This will be my 11th year. And if these songs didn't fade out, this album would absolutely be on the list. It would probably be in the top 4 for sure. And so far, we're only halfway through the year now in July. But because of the fading out, maybe it could squeak onto the list on the very upper half if the rest of the songs don't fade out. But I have a bad feeling. Love the twangy guitar with the tremolo on it on the left. Love it. All the instruments are sort of building a little bit, and the drums are keeping consistent. But then when it comes to when it hitches into the chorus here, everything's now moving along with it. That you have the hi-hats going, the tambourine. Now we're really moving on the hi-hat. I will say not very many of the songs have had an outro at all. Now, I know that I'm complaining about them fading out, and it really bothers me, and I hate it. But I wouldn't mind the songs having a bit of an outro. I can guarantee you when they're playing them live, they'll perform the chorus, you know, they'll just perform the chorus a couple more times, and then the instruments will be able to noodle around a little bit. Why cut the songs off and make them feel short? Love the groove here. Okay, we've done Move the River. This is track 7. We only have 4 to go, including this one. I'll let you down, but will not give you up. Love those falling chords there. Again, very tasty. They're not reinventing any sort of a wheel here. They're just playing really, really, really good music. And it sounds sonically fantastic. Yes. Great backing vocals there. Love those guitar stabs. That feels very 60s to me. And again, I just want to shout out, the drums sound fantastic. Really using the cymbals sparingly, like I mentioned with T-Bone's approach to recording way back in 2005 or whenever that album came out. 2008, whenever. Nice little guitar solo. I'm enjoying the bridge sections with the solos, you know, but then it just feels like all the songs just do the last chorus, which I am thankfully that they're doing the third chorus, and then it just kind of ends, which I'd rather have it just end than fade out into some nothingness. Honestly, like, it kind of makes me sick. And again, I understand nobody else cares about this like me. I get it. And I'm talking about the fading out. There you can really hear the drums and the snare and everything, the like pinging like snare on this song in particular. Very gated snare. Love it. I wonder if this is the single. This sounds like it could be a single. I don't really know if this sounds like it fits on modern day radio that much. But there's certainly a place for it. And the end all be all is certainly not pop top 40 radio, as we all know. Love those bass notes. Tasty. Love it. That acoustic guitar part, nice. Yeah, play through it again. Play through it again, yes. This is probably my favorite song on the album, I would say. It would have been that slow one with the brushes, but it faded out, so no. Wrong End of the Spear. I think the bass is really contributing to that sort of, it almost has like that sort of an early 70s feel to the tone. But I think it really sounds very, very good. And Jacob Dylan's voice is like all encompassing. It's very nice. He has a lot of lows and mids to it, but it's not really competing with the kick. Which the kick on this song sounds a lot less gigantic and a lot more drawn back, but it may just be that it was being played a little bit softer, or they don't have some of the layers on it that they did on some of the other songs. Hold on, I thought Shelby Lynn only did vocals on tracks. We're on track 8. I thought I heard some female vocals in there, but... And it could be that some of this song features her as well, but just she doesn't get a credit for it for whatever reason. Could have been overlooked, or it could have been that I was just hearing Butch Walker's background vocals, and it sounded like female vocals to me, but doesn't really matter what they are, just the fact that the part's working so good. Now this song, back to having a groove. Like track 1. And it's kind of cool that this song is Wrong End of the Spear, when we have a song on his Women in Country called Down on Your Own Shield. It's kind of I know it might not necessarily be super, like shield and spear, but it's interesting. Ooh, love that tremolo guitar strum here. Oh, nice. Yes. Guitar solo. And oohs. I would definitely say that I think I hear some female vocal in those oohs. Love the twangy guitar. Love it. That's why that's why it just hurts my soul to the core that 3 of the songs have faded out. Like, this album could be potentially my #1 for the year. But I honestly, I care about it that much, and I'm going to harp on it as much as I want. So I probably already lost of the 10 people that watch this video, 8 of you probably have already left because I'm so annoying with my constant talk of fading out. But that's how strongly I feel about it. Like, from now on, when I listen to those 3 songs, when it gets to start fading out, I will hit the skip button. Or I may just skip them entirely. That's how much I hate it. The acoustic, or the electric tremolo strums are there, and it's really nice. Nice. That's track 8. We only have 2 more. Who's That Man Walking Around My Garden? Right now. Ooh. Oh, boy. Fast piano. And, of course, that electric guitar. Yeah. Okay. Much more apparent slap back echo on Jakob Dylan's voice here. That hi-hat sounds very, like, tinny almost. I love the sound. Works nice with the... I think there might be a tambourine, acoustic guitar strumming. I love those organ stabs. And then, of course, the love it. Oh, yeah. This has a nice rock and roll feel to it. Or like a swinging, like not swinging, but like a driving sort of country beat almost. Rock and roll, though. The piano's really doing a lot of work on this song to make it sound the way it sounds. Those mid to low range notes. Hearing some like little riffs and lines on the piano. Yeah, those slow attack stabs on the keyboard stabs. Another guitar solo, do it. I love this. And again, that's why it hurts me so much. Ooh. Ooh, that was some sort of a room mic that they had that they just boosted in volume. Very cool effect. Reverby type of roomy effect. Neat. Now, please don't fade the song out. Please don't. But I can feel that you're probably gonna do it 'cause you're jamming. Yes. Last track on the album coming up. I want it to be dark and slow. Nope. Okay. The Daylight Between Us. Oh. Love that sort of like space there. Ooh. Love that blooming effect on that sort of background synth thing that's happening. Pad of some kind. Could be electric guitars strummed with the turning of the knob. I like it, though. I think it's just a keyboard of some kind. Organ. Oh, yeah. Love that reverb on the spring reverb on the guitar stabs. It must be Butch Walker doing the background vocals on these last couple songs, and I just love it. I think it's absolutely perfect. Oh, yes, that little riff there, nice. Not a big fan of the few references we've had to being stoned and getting high, but that's just me, I understand. That wouldn't bother a lot of people. And it's not incredibly overt either, so... Jakob Dylan just has a way of writing. It feels like a Jakob Dylan song when you hear it, and I like that. Love it. Yeah, guitar solo. Love it. Love it. Again, that sort of atmospheric stuff in the background, really, really nice. Starting to get scared. Love it. I love the little breaks and the pauses and the breath. And then continuing. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. And okay. Oh, it's so frustrating to me. Oh. 1 second. That was my grandma calling to see how everything went because my sister had a little baby girl this morning just a few hours ago. Well, at this point, more than a few hours, like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours ago. But everything is going great. Thank you for caring. Okay, so before that, why? Now, I know I have to crawl out of my own butt and just be like, dude, accept the fact that they faded 3 of the 10 songs out. But the thing is, that's 30% of the album that faded out. And generally, I don't give like 5-star reviews or anything like that, but in my head, the way I think of it is 10 songs on the album, 3 of them fade out, that's minus 1 point for each. So I would have to give this album a 7 out of 10, right? I mean, yeah. So 70%, not a good review from me. Generally, I love something or I am disappointed in it. In this case, it's both. I'm incredibly happy with the production. I love the way it sounded. I love the way everything was placed in the mix. I love that, the kick and the snare sounded fantastic. I guess I should say, if anyone has just skipped to the end and you don't know what I'm talking about, I hate when someone fades out a song. I absolutely 100% cannot stand it. It is never okay in any circumstance ever. I don't care if you wrote a 50-minute song and the last 20 minutes of it are literally the same exact thing looped over and over. That's on you for writing a bad song. It doesn't need to fade ever. There is no excuse. A song should never, ever fade out. That's my opinion. I understand, like I said, not everybody feels that way. In fact, I don't know of really anybody else that feels that way. I'm sure we all have our own musical pet peeves. I'm sure there's things that you don't like that would be totally fine to me. But my biggest musical pet peeve, biggest by a wide margin, is fading songs out. I think that it is lazy. I do not think that it is artistic. I think that it was absolutely a necessity back in the day because you could only fit so much onto a 45 or onto a record, and radios would only play songs of a certain length. So you're not going to write a 5.5 minute, you're not going to write Bohemian Rhapsody and get it on the song a decade and a half before Bohemian Rhapsody was written. It wouldn't have worked. It would have only been a tiny chunk of that song, and it would have faded out. Now, I'm not saying that they would write 10-minute songs and then they just fade them out to make it work on the radio, but that's just what happened. It was a necessity of the time and a limitation of the technology. We do not have those limitations. So it is purely Jakob Dylan and the Wallflowers' choice to fade those 3 songs out, one of which, while they were still singing the vocals, which is just utterly unacceptable to me. Utterly unacceptable, especially because that song, while they were still singing, was what was my favorite song on the album up at that point. Which was, I think, track 5, Darlin' Hold On. That was the song that was with the brushes. And it was nice and slow and atmospheric, and I really liked it up until the point where they were just singing along the song. You know, you could feel verse, chorus, verse, chorus, little guitar solo or something, and then chorus, and then while they're just singing and the song's still going, no indication whatsoever that the song is even remotely winding down, let alone over, the song just fades out. Utterly unacceptable, trash, garbage, awful decision on whoever's decision it was, and anybody that was around at the time when that person made that decision to not slap them in the face and say, don't do this, you shouldn't do this, never fade out a song, you're an idiot for doing it. That out of the way, okay? Everybody knows how I feel about that. It's awful, whatever. The production on this album was fantastic. Jakob Dylan, his performance on vocals was fantastic. I think the piano player, which was... We had Butch Walker playing keyboards. We also have Aaron Embry playing keyboards as well. Whoever was playing the piano did a fantastic job to help give this album a specific color that it wouldn't have had otherwise. There was a bit of a... And I get this sometimes with a lot of the other Wallflowers and Jakob Dylan stuff. It feels like someone could be sitting at a piano playing it in an old-timey saloon. And I really, really, really enjoy that sound, that feel, that tone, that color that the piano lent to these songs. I think the mixes were masterfully done. The mixing in particular, not just like the recording and everything was great. The mixing in particular was done really well. And the mastering obviously as well. Compressed and everything done just the right amount. But the mixing in particular, everything felt nice and rounded when it needed to. Nothing felt shrill at all, which I wouldn't expect from any project involving Jakob Dylan. Everything felt nice and round. The bass really stuck out to me in some songs, and I could easily go a whole album without really paying attention or listening to or noticing the bass very much at all, if there's no reason to other than it just being this sort of chuggy, chunky, low frequency that you're hearing. The kick and the snare, like I said, were amazing. The snare had a very nice gate on it that really made it stop. It sounded very nice and dry, but also had room to it as well. So the drums were done masterfully. I think that the sparseness of the cymbals really helped separate the different sections of the songs, which is what I mentioned at the very beginning. I think that the different grooves and the feelings of the song that I mentioned throughout, the first song had a bit of like a swaying groove to it. The second song had more of a bounce to it. The third song had a bit more of like a driving bounce. It was very nice. I loved the variety of the different feelings of the songs. The penultimate song on the album was really surprising to me that it was that nice, faster song. Didn't see that coming. All of the background vocals were very exceptionally well done. And whether it was from the female vocalist or Butch Walker, Shelby Lynn, the female vocalist, or Butch Walker, the guy who sort of produced and I think along with Jakob Dylan helped sort of craft this whole album. And I think one thing really stands out to me, like I was saying, I expect something from a band like the Wallflowers. I expect the different elements to all be tasty, which is one of my most favorite musical terms because it's so scientific, but also like when you say something's tasty, you can I think if you're getting the vibe that I'm meaning when I say that, it really does mean something. It means, like I was saying, that nobody's trying to be in the way of anybody else. And when you say a guitar lick is very tasty, to me what it means is the guitar riff, the guitar part that was just played, really fits thematically with the song, and it wasn't overbearing. It wasn't overpowerful. It wasn't someone saying, look at me, I'm playing my instrument really well, and look at how great I am. When you're a band and you're being tasty as a whole, everything is for the good of the song. And that's absolutely the feeling that I get with all of Jakob Dylan's material and the Wallflowers as well. Everyone feels like a band having fun, and no one's trying to do anything showy. Now, that being said, there were a lot of guitar solos on this album, which I was not expecting, and I loved every second of it. I love guitar solos, and I think that everything was done very well on this album. There were a lot of, I mentioned Duane Eddy, a lot of nice twangy sort of tremolo-sounding guitar stuff. Not necessarily always in the solos, some of it just off to the side, but there were several songs, I think 3, that used that sort of flangy chorus guitar tone as sort of the lead lick or riff of the song, and I really enjoyed that as well. Like I said, it gave it a bit more of a throwback feeling. overall, this album was fantastic with the exception of those 3 songs that faded out. And I have already ranted about that. And if you're still watching this and you watched the whole thing, first of all, thank you very much. If you just skipped to the end and you still stayed through my stupid little rant about fading out, just know, like, it hurts me. It absolutely hurts me to hear this. Like, when we were listening to those songs, every time we would be approaching what felt like the end of the song, I would get this like sick feeling in my stomach, like, please don't fade out. That's how important it is to me. I want to hear the most perfect, amazing album I've ever heard. And I want that. I want every album that I listen to be flawless from front to back. And I don't know if I've ever in my life heard the most perfect, amazing, wonderful album ever. I do have my favorites, and I have the albums that I do think are perfect and flawless from front to back. But this album is not that, for the sole reason that 3 of the songs fade out, particularly the first 2 songs. You know, like, come on, man. And then having the one sort of more ballady song with the one where the drums were played with brushes, having that one be the one that fades out too, while the vocals are still going, like, oh, come on, man. But literally, other than that, I can complain about nothing. I think the rest of the album was done flawlessly. I think the mixing was great. The mastering was great. The recording obviously was great. The performances were fantastic. The writing of the songs was great. I think that all the little sprinkles and things that I mentioned before, the auxiliary percussion, the organ parts, and when you have a keyboard player, you can do things other than just playing the piano part. Although I do think that there was pretty consistent piano, like I mentioned. And I think that's great. But being able to still have a few little things, that faster song at the end, there was those little sort of like organ stabs. Loved that. That was really cool. And the song would not necessarily have the character that it does at the end of the day without those elements, that particular element. And the same could be said for all the backing vocals. Like I said, I think that backing vocals are one of the most important and definitely the most underappreciated element in all of music, in my opinion. And I think that the backing vocals were all perfect and tasty and everything. And I think that, like I said, this could be a perfect album without those 3 songs that fade out. So, man, what a disappointment that they chose to do that. So, what a huge bummer. I'm sure they're excited to go live and perform these songs and not fade them out live, because obviously they're not going to do that. They're just going to play them and end them on the root chord or whatever. I don't care. Oh, it's very frustrating to me. I'm sorry if my review or this whole video was ruined by my harping on that, but like I've said now many, many, many times, that's how important it is to me. And I am going to just go out and say, while I love the production on Women in Country, I think that this album, Exit Wounds by the Wallflowers, is the best sounding, best produced, best sounding album Jakob Dylan has ever been a part of. That's how good I think this sounds. I think it sounds that good. So, man, what a bummer about those 3 songs. But overall, I have a very positive opinion of the album, though. 7 great Wallflowers, Jakob Dylan songs is still better than none. And 7 great ones and 3 that are disappointing because they fade out, but still well-written, good songs. That's a good win at the end of the day. Even though it's not perfect, it's not flawless, it's still absolutely a must-listen for anyone that loves good, well-written music, in my opinion. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video, and as always, go out and share. Go out, listen to some new music, and share it with people. That's what I always try to say. The next one of these videos that I'm going to be doing, I was maybe going to do it today, but I'm not sure. Two videos in one day is a lot. Is the brand new Kaleo album. I'm super, super, super looking forward to that. And when I saw that it was out, I've been waiting for years for Kaleo to have a follow-up to the debut album, which I think was fantastic all the way through. Interesting because half of it's pretty slow, half of it's kind of up-tempo. There's one song that's like a cool blues rock song. The rest of the songs are all very different and diverse. But with that call, I'll end the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello?
No, and those are all the questions I have, sir. Thank you very much for your time and your help today.
No problem.
You have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, you too. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
She doesn't know it, but her call was also recorded for quality assurance purposes. Isn't music great? Bye.